So a while back, I made a video ranking the effectiveness of all the martial arts that I could really think of, and the list kind of ended up looking like this. And to this day, people still go back and forth in the comments on that video, so I thought maybe I should do a sequel. And if you saw the title, this time the martial arts are going to be ranked by what are the coolest. So I'm really going to go by two factors, and that is the martial art actually cool to look at? And does it make you cooler if you do this martial art? Alright, so now I'm going to reset, and hopefully it will still be visible. Alright, so I guess we'll start the same way we did last time. I assume if everything is in the same order, with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think I put it the most effective martial art that is not a mixed martial art. But when it comes to coolness, it is, I think when I tell people I do Jiu-Jitsu, they usually think it's pretty cool, but it's not super cool to watch. If you ever watched a Jiu-Jitsu competition, it's often pretty boring with the odd submission. It really depends by the rules too. For instance, I really love watching quintet, but just like a normal jiu-jitsu match, like sometimes it's just like two people locked in a position. And because of that, I think I'm going to put it at the B tier for now. Alright, so karate. Now for a long time, karate was just synonymous with martial arts. But given that it's, something that when people think of, they think of like, oh yeah, I did karate when I was 9. I don't know. I mean, I probably think it's a bit cooler than the average person does, because I know it's a pretty decently effective martial art, and I know it's pretty badass to train it if you have like a good school. But I think I'm going to put it in the C tier for now, because I don't think it's quite as cool as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I do think it is probably cooler to look at. But we'll just keep it in C tier, because if someone says they do karate, you don't necessarily think they're super cool, I suppose. Now, Aikido, I'm going to have to put way down here in D tier, just because if someone told me they did Aikido, I don't know, I would just think they were really into like anime or something. And the martial art itself, I mean, it's cool when they do their demonstrations, and, it's cool, like in a movie, you see them like flipping people and all that, but just knowing how it doesn't really work in real life, it's definitely a bottom tier when it comes to coolness. Sumo is interesting. I don't know, if someone told me they were a sumo wrestler, I think I'd find that pretty cool, because it's just so random if you're an American like me. I'll put it behind Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just because, I don't know, is it cool to watch? I guess it's kind of cool to watch, but probably not quite as cool as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where at least you have submissions. Alright, Greco-Roman wrestling. So this is like that stand-up wrestling. It's like college wrestling, right? Well, same with freestyle. I find it kind of cool to look at, just because I kind of like seeing people start from standing. But it's probably more interesting than freestyle wrestling, but probably not as interesting as watching karate. And if you tell someone you do Greco-Roman wrestling, they probably think you're like in high school or college. I don't know. If you did wrestling in college, was it a good way to get girls? Probably not, but I don't want to be too mean. Freestyle wrestling is like Greco-Roman, except it's not as flashy, so it's gonna go below Greco-Roman. In fact, what did I put it in? I'm gonna put it in D tier for now. I might move it later. It's definitely cooler in my opinion than Aikido. I mean, I respect people who do these martial arts, but I don't really know how cool it is. Submission wrestling, like I said in my other video, it's kind of just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu without the gi, so it makes it a little bit more interesting to watch. And it's kind of what I think about when people do quintet, which I like. So I'll put it in A. Yeah, no, it's not quite A tier. I feel like any grappling is going to be hard to get into the A and S tier, just because it's not super interesting to watch most of the time, except in like rare occasions when someone gets a cool submission. Alright, Taekwondo. So Taekwondo has some of like the coolest kicks, and it looks pretty cool, but it has that same kind of problem as karate, where people just assume if you do it that you're like 9 years old. But I don't know. I think it's definitely flashy enough, and if someone says they do Taekwondo, I think that's kind of cool. So maybe I'll put it above sumo wrestling. Actually, no, it's not as cool as doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu though. I'll put it there. Like if someone does like a legit Taekwondo. I don't know, does anyone think Joe Rogan is cooler for doing Taekwondo or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Let me know in the comments. Sanda, well, I think Sanda, it's just like, mixed martial arts with the Chinese variety. So if I met someone in the US that did Sanda, I would find that really cool, although most people don't know what that is, I guess. And they would just kind of think it was mixed martial arts. I'll put it in A tier because it just seems pretty hardcore. Now, Muay Thai is for sure going in the S tier. I don't remember if I put it S tier for effectiveness. It's definitely in the S or A tier. But Muay Thai is definitely one of the coolest martial arts out there. If you ever watch like Muay Thai in real life or on TV, it's pretty cool. I like watching MMA a little bit more. I don't really follow Muay Thai too closely, but I've seen a few fights in person. Just like the striking is crazy, like the sound they make when they hit each other. It's really cool. And if someone does Muay Thai, I think that makes them kind of an instant badass, in my opinion. And same thing with boxing. I think boxers, at least in the US, people think that's probably a bit more cool. But it's also, people might think it's kind of vanilla compared to like Eastern martial arts, where there's kind of that mysticism. For me, I think maybe it's a little bit less cool than Muay Thai, although Muay Thai is more and more popular now, but I don't know, it still seems like a little bit, what's the word, exotic? Maybe that's a little bit too much, I don't know, but I think someone who does Muay Thai is a little bit cooler than Western boxing, just because I know they have those scary kicks. Krav Maga. So in the movies, the people who do Krav Maga are like really cool badasses. But to me, if I hear someone does Krav Maga, it's like they train at their local mall. They're probably out of shape. They probably think they're a lot more badass than they actually are. If I'm targeting anyone specifically, I'm not sorry. I'm not going to apologize for that. It's at the bottom level for me. There are people, I said this in my other video too, there are people who do like stuff like Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like real martial arts, and then they train Krav Maga on top of that, and then they say like it's definitely worth doing. But to me, Krav Maga is like, knife disarms, gun disarms. Like, I don't really know how practical that is, and the military that it comes from the Israeli military. And one thing about like military martial arts is that soldiers aren't really martial artists. They're just trying to learn some bare bones stuff like within like a week or two, just so like that rare like 1 in a million time where they can't get their gun out or their other gun out, they have something to protect themselves. But I think it's more, what I heard it described as Krav Maga is more of like a mentality of like, I just gotta be 100% violent and break the other person before anything can happen to me, more so than like what we see in the US, where it's training at your local mall to disarm a gun. I just, like, how many people teaching this have like had someone pull a gun on them? Like maybe if you're like a soldier or like a cop or something, you can teach some cool like self-defense stuff, and maybe that might fall under Krav Maga, and that's kind of cool. But I don't know. It's just, it kind of has the same problem as karate and taekwondo in the US, where there's so many like fake people teaching it that kind of takes away from what I'd imagine are like that maybe 10% of Krav Maga schools that are pretty cool. But I'm just gonna put it in D tier right now. I'd feel a little disrespectful putting it above freestyle wrestling, but it is what it is. Judo I think is really cool. I think I'll put it above Greco-Roman wrestling. I think most people, when they hear judo, though, they're either not too sure what it is or they think Ronda Rousey. I think those throws are freaking cool to watch. And I might even be more interested in watching a judo match than a Brazilian jiu-jitsu match, but I'll move it above sumo. Yeah, I think it's cool to watch. I don't know how cool it makes you if you do judo. I would find someone, like when I know people who do judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I have kind of a respect for them because I think they're probably a bit tougher than the average guy who just does jiu-jitsu. They're just like strong in a weird way, and then if you ever stand with them, like you're gonna get smashed on your head. But I don't know. I'll just put it in B tier for now. Kung Fu I don't really think is cool at all. It's pretty cool in the movies, but it's not real, really. I don't know. Is it cooler than Aikido? I mean, it's like so famous. If you tell someone, the average person, you do Kung Fu and they don't know too much about martial arts, they probably think you're like a real badass. So maybe it goes up here in C tier, but if you told me that you did Kung Fu, I don't know, I'd be a little bit like incredulous, I suppose. Let's just put it at the top of D tier. Okay, Wing Chun has that same problem, but I don't know, it has a few things going for it, so it's kind of cool watching Ip Man and stuff, right? But again, it's just not more effective. So if someone tells me they do Wing Chun, I don't know, it's just another thing where I think you're kind of wasting your time, but I'll put it at the bottom of C tier. Sambo I think is super cool. It's like doing, I'm going to put it way up here. It's kind of like, in my opinion, doing like a kickboxing type thing mixed with Greco-Roman wrestling and judo, and dumping people on their head. I suppose it's cool to watch too, because it's just like watching MMA except a little bit more grappling heavy. I guess Habib Nurmagomedov, jeez, I should be able to pronounce that. He's probably the most famous Sambo practitioner, and I think he won medals in Sambo. But I don't know if his MMA style is really indicative of that, or if he just kind of has his own style. So I'm not really sure if that's Sambo. Let me know in the comments, but I do find it really cool. If someone does Sambo, like, I immediately expect them to be a badass. Tai Chi is probably the least cool. Yeah. It's just, like, my grandpa and my grandma, who are both 90, do Tai Chi, and it's just kind of like a relaxing yoga type thing. I mean, good for you if you do it, but martial arts wise, I mean, I don't know, it's like telling me you did yoga. I'm like, oh, good for you, but I don't necessarily think it makes you cool or anything. Kickboxing makes you super cool. Maybe even cooler than a Western boxer, just normal boxing. But not quite as cool as Muay Thai because they don't have those thigh kicks. But again, people who do like these kinds of striking martial arts that have a lot of competition, like if someone does like a jiu-jitsu competition or a judo competition or a taekwondo match or a karate match or like a wrestling match, it's like I think that's cool, like, you know, way to go out there and compete. But I feel like you can't call these fights so much because you don't have the potential of really getting knocked out. I mean, in taekwondo and karate you do, but it's really like point-based sparring. But like these, it's like do or die. And you could say that about Sanda and Sambo too. But these are basically MMA. Like, I don't know why, but I just kind of find striking a little bit cooler, but I like watching MMA stuff a little bit more. I don't know if that's weird. Shoot, Lethway. Oh my goodness, this might be the coolest thing on the list. I know it's really esoteric, but come on, it's just Muay Thai with headbutts, right? That's pretty cool, right? If I met someone and they said they did Lethway, I'd just be kind of astounded. I don't think it's much cooler than that. Capoeira. So this martial art, it's a little bit funny because, I mean, it's not like the most effective thing out there. I think I put it pretty low on my last list. But, I mean, it has the coolest kicks. I think everyone's seen that video where the capoeira fighter is like doing a kickboxing match and he does like 2 heel kicks in a row and the second one connects and it like destroys the other guy. So those kicks are just so cool. And I guess a little context. This is just like something on the aside that I noticed. So there was this new Batman trailer for a new video game. I think it's called Gotham Knights. And I was looking at the characters, and then it said for Batgirl, at least, she knew 3 martial arts. And I think it was like kickboxing, judo, some kind of grappling, and then it was capoeira. And I was like, ooh, capoeira, like, how's that going to help? And then I remembered, oh yeah, you get those sick spin kicks. So it's not the most effective thing, but it is super cool, like, to be able to jump around and move like that. I find it kind of badass. So I'll put it below Sanda in the A tier. Oh, Lucha Libre. So if you do Lucha Libre, I mean, it's kind of like just submission wrestling, I suppose, but just like it's so random, I guess. And I think you'd be wearing like a wrestling mask, although I know that's Lucha Libre, but I don't know. I find that pretty cool too, so I'm going to put it at the bottom of A tier. And then catch wrestling. Oh wow. So catch wrestlers to me are kind of like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, but like just tougher, which I find pretty cool. But if you ask the average person, they might not think it's that cool. So, I'm sure I find it so cool. I think their matches are pretty cool to watch, although actually I don't think I've seen too many catch wrestling matches, but I just think catch wrestlers are cool, like when you see them in quintet. I'll put it at the top of B tier. Alright, so I hope the way I captured this, I hope this is all visible, otherwise I'll probably redo the video. But let me know what you think. I think these martial arts, not super cool, although this is pretty effective. These martial arts, I think, are the coolest. If I had to put MMA in here, because I didn't have an MMA square like last time, I think MMA would probably be maybe like between boxing and kickboxing. I still think like pure striking martial arts that, you compete in, I don't know, they just have like a more mysticism to me than just pure MMA. But because you're just playing for keeps too. Like the person who loses is usually the person who gets like takes the most damage or gets knocked out. At least in MMA, you could just get choked out, or I guess it can go to decision like in these. But I don't know. Like you ever see like a Muay Thai fighter after a Muay Thai fight? Like they just look like hamburger meat. So I don't know. That's kind of my opinion. I'd put MMA right about here if I wasn't so lazy and I made an MMA square. But that's my video. That's my list. Let me know what you think. I'll link the original one either at the end of this video or below. So I guess let me know what you think. Let me know if you like this. I'm thinking maybe if I do another video, I'm kind of interested in doing something law related or MMA related. So maybe I'll talk about the many run-ins with the law of John Jones and kind of break down, what exactly he did that was illegal, what statutes he violated, how much time he could have ended up going to prison for, or if he could have gone to prison at all. I think that would be kind of interesting. With my background, it's just something that I could talk about. But if you're interested in that, I don't know, put it in the comments. Maybe I'll make that video next. So, thank you for watching. See you next time.